August 19, 1944. East Prussia. At the Wolfsschanze, Generaloberst Alfred Jodl studied the maps. Patton's Third Army was racing east. The beaches of Normandy were far behind. The German staff did the math they knew by heart. Distance plus consumption equals collapse. An armored division advancing could drink 100,000 gallons of fuel a day. More in bad ground. The Americans were hundreds of miles from their depots. The conclusion felt inevitable. The advance would stall. The Seine could be held. Winter might save them. What Jodl did not see was already in motion. A river of trucks, headlights on, horns silent. A one-way highway born from desperation and American improvisation. The Red Ball Express. In a requisitioned French chateau, transport officers set the rules. 2 parallel routes. One forward, one back. No blackout. No stops except fuel or breakdown. Convoys every few minutes. 30 to 35 miles per hour when possible. Military police at checkpoints waved slow drivers to the side. Mobile mechanics waited every few dozen miles. If a fix took longer than a few minutes, the truck was pushed into the ditch, and the load moved on. The goal was simple. Keep Patton supplied. Every hour, every day. They needed trucks, thousands of them. They came in olive drab by the shipload. The backbone was the GMCCCKW 2.5-ton truck. Deuce and a half, the soldiers called it. All-wheel drive as standard. Waterproofing that let it ford more than 2 feet of water. Simple engines that ran on low-quality fuel. Parts you could swap by the roadside. Where German doctrine prized careful husbandry, the Americans expected losses and planned around them. The drivers were mostly black Americans in a segregated army. Roughly 3/4 of the Red Ball drivers were African American. Many had trained for other duties that were denied to them. Now they drove. Day and night. They painted names on tailgates. They shared coffee and cigarettes with French kids along the route. They were told little glory waited in logistics. They created their own. Patton's Blood Bank. Detroit to Berlin. The express rolled because they refused to let it stop. German reconnaissance saw the impossible. Columns without gaps. Headlights at night. Vehicles passing every few dozen seconds. A panzer general watched from a hedgerow and dictated his disbelief. This was not camouflage. It was not economy. It was mass production on wheels. Reports climbed from battalion to army group. The consensus hardened into dread. The Americans had built a supply system that ignored the rules and still worked. The tonnage told the story. In its first week, the Red Ball Express delivered almost 90,000 tons. Day after day, more than 12,000 tons moved forward. The round trip could run to nearly 700 miles. That distance would have defeated horse transport. It punished trucks. It did not stop them. When a bridge vanished under demolition, engineers threw a temporary span across the river in hours. When the main route snarled, new bypasses appeared by dawn. If there were no buses for personnel, drivers commandeered French ones to keep cargo space free. Fuel was the beating heart. The Red Ball Express burned hundreds of thousands of gallons just to feed itself. Yet the taps never ran dry. Operation Pluto, pipelines under the ocean, began pushing gasoline across the English Channel. Forward fuel dumps rose every few dozen miles. Tanker convoys ran in parallel, so a driver rarely waited more than a few minutes to refuel. A German planner stared at aerial photographs and grasped the scale. The Americans had fuel parks larger than German strategic reserves. Artillery spoke the rest. American guns fired as if shells were leaves. At Metz and beyond, batteries shot all day and into the night. German officers calculated the truckloads required and dismissed it as propaganda. Then prisoners repeated what they had heard on the roads. Engines without end. The math was real. The cost was real, too. Drivers stayed awake for days. Some took stimulants. Crashes happened. Fires started. Hundreds died. Mechanics cannibalized dead-lined trucks to keep others moving. Engines were swapped by cranes in less than an hour. Tires vanished by the thousands. Ships replaced what the road ate. Heinz Guderian read the reports and balked. This pace should not be possible. Yet Patton's lead elements kept arriving. The Americans even broadcast positions in the clear, confident they would outrun reaction. In village after village, French civilians watched the convoys and decided the war's end was no longer a question. It was a schedule. The Red Ball Express ran from late August into November, until railways were restored and Antwerp opened. By then, it had delivered hundreds of thousands of tons. It had turned distance from a German ally into an American weapon, and it had taught a brutal, simple lesson. In an industrial war, speed belongs to those who can feed it.